This morning I'll get right to the scripture and read the last part of the parable of the lost son. This part deals with the older son after his younger brother returns to the father. And the words are on the screen, beginning in Luke chapter 15, verse 25 through verse 36. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked what he was doing. "Your brother has come," he replied, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you killed the fattened calf for him." "My son," the father said, "you are always with me and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." May the Lord's blessing be added to the reading and to the hearing of His holy word. We've looked at the parable from the perspective of the father last week, and now we are looking at it from the perspective of the older son. I think sometimes we refuse to see flaws in ourselves until we see them in others. This is what Jesus was driving at in Luke 15 by telling these three lost stories to the Pharisees: the story of the lost sheep, parable of the lost coin, and parable of the lost son. In the parable of the lost son, it turns out that the older son represents the Pharisees, and he represents them in all of their self-righteousness. There are a lot of ways I could go with this message this morning, but I really felt impressed not so much to tell you about this son, the older son, but rather to show him to you. And what I've done is I've devised a first-person telling, adding a bit to the word here, but trying to give you a sense of what he may have been thinking. And as you hear it, also not only don't take it just for the words of this older son, but see if you can see the attitude of the Pharisees in this son. And it goes like this. I'm sure by now you've all heard about my brother who returned home. He's the foolish one who left years ago and returned with nothing more than the shirt on his back. You know, I just don't get it. I don't understand why they make him out to be some kind of a hero. I don't want to sound childish, but it's just not fair. Here I've been day in and day out doing what was expected of me, working my tail off, never once complaining, and did Dad ever throw a party for me and my friends? No way. Some say I may sound a bit resentful, but is there anything wrong with wanting what is rightfully mine? I don't think that's a lot to ask. But I really don't want to make this about me. It's about my brother, that lazy, irresponsible, prodigal brother of mine, and the way everyone is treating him. If I didn't know any better, I'd think he was the one who stayed at home all those years and did everything he should, and who worked for Dad when the other one ran off and had a grand old time. But here I am, where I've always been, doing what I've always done, and I get the feeling that everyone thinks I'm supposed to put on a happy face for him just by coming back. Why in the world would I do that? I'm not the one who demanded my inheritance at such a young age. I'm not the one who wasted all of my money and now have nothing to show for it. Does anyone even realize what my brother did? When you demand your inheritance before your father is dead and gone, it means you wish he was dead and gone. That's all there is to it. When you do that, you're telling the world that the money means more to you than spending time with him. That's what my brother did, and now that it seems like all of his money is gone, now he has time for Dad. And speaking of Dad, that's another issue. I just don't understand him at all. If you act like a doormat, people are not going to respect you. And who's to say that my brother isn't going to run off again and do the same thing all over again? Leopards don't change their spots, do they? Why doesn't Dad see this? Why doesn't he see that people don't change? Once a prodigal, always a prodigal. And I'm starting to see now that Dad doesn't see a lot of things, like how I've religiously worked for him, yet I get nothing. Now, Dad tells me that one day I'm going to inherit all this anyway, but that's not the point. The point is, how can I be sure that I'm going to get what's rightfully mine in the end? The last thing I want is for me to spend all these years doing everything Dad asked me, going above and beyond the call of duty, just to find out there's nothing left for me. Wouldn't that be a surprise? I mean, when my brother ran off, he literally wasted more money than most people can shake a stick at. He had to be selfish. Did he ever think of me? I'm sure I never crossed his mind when he was out partying with all the drinking and the women and who knows what else went on. Someone said after he wasted his inheritance, my brother was starving in a pig pen. Serves him right. If not for Dad, he'd have nothing. So, my brother goes from flopping around in a pig pen to wearing the family robe and a ring on his finger, as if nothing ever happened. Now, how fair is that? I still remember the day I was out working in the field. Have you ever been working and you hear something that seems out of place and your mind's trying to make sense of it, but it just doesn't make sense? Well, I went closer to the house and I heard this music coming. And I called for one of the servants and I asked him what was up. He said, "Your brother has come and your father has killed the fattened calf and he has him back safe and sound." At first, I got to tell you, I didn't realize who he meant when he said my brother. He'd been gone for so long, I'd pretty much forgotten about him. I guess I got so used to Dad searching for him, going out every day, looking for him in the distance for any sign of him returning. I guess it became old hat. But me, I wasn't too concerned about him. I'll tell you that when the servant filled me in on what happened, I dropped everything and I made a beeline right to Dad. And when I found him, he was practically giddy. He was ordering servants to stop whatever they were doing and to decorate and prepare for a party. Can you believe it? A party. And I heard him say, "My son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And what's even worse is I can guarantee you that he's most likely going to have my brother sitting next to him next time we go to the temple, and he's going to be beaming just because the recluse couldn't make it on his own. And he'll be gloating to everyone that his family is back together again. Now, I try to be understanding, but can we have a little bit of perspective, please? No sooner does my brother waltz through the door and Dad forgets everything he did for him and forgets how he treated him. And I wonder if in his old age maybe my dad wasn't mistaking my brother for me when he decided to throw the party. I confronted Dad about it, about the big party and the fattened calf, and all he did was make excuses for my brother. Then he tried to make me feel like I wasn't being stabbed in the back, saying, "My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours." Oh, really? All this money wasted on the party certainly isn't mine, isn't? And all the money he wasted on the women and his partying certainly isn't mine either. You know, I don't know what hurts more. How everything that should be mine is wasted, or how patronizing my old man is to me. He actually called me my son, as if now I'm part of the family and now he wants to be nice to me. You know, it sounds a bit harsh, but I think if any of you were in my shoes, you'd feel the same way. You'd feel that way if all of your years of hard labor wasn't recognized at all, and if your own father throws a party for your loser brother, but now all you get is some vague promise about the future. And the more I think about it, the issue is rather obvious. Dad doesn't appreciate all the work I've been doing. I've gone above and beyond the call of duty. I'm doing everything I can do to make Dad happy, and it's like it means nothing to him. What I just don't get is that he tells me he's going to give me this inheritance when time comes, regardless of what I do. That's the way it seems. I mean, he gave the inheritance to his brother, and he didn't do nearly as much for Dad as I did. Well, you know what? If he wants to play it that way, maybe I don't want it. When it gets right down to it, I think a real man works for what is rightfully his, and a real man earns everything he has. It is only a weak person who accepts something from another person that he didn't earn. That's the way I roll. I am a self-made man, and I don't need my father's inheritance. I'll get along fine without it. You know, it's been like this for many years now. I figure it's about time Dad knows how I really feel. I get tired of being a doormat for everyone and just hanging back in the shadows. No matter what I do is never enough for Dad. Seems to me that Dad has some kind of complex where he has to be the one to give people what they don't deserve. He wants to be so gracious. It's like he said, you didn't earn this, and you hated me and wished I was dead, and you wanted to get along on your own, but now you call on me when you need me, and even though you said you'd be happy as a servant, I'll give you more than what you asked for. You didn't earn it, but I'm a good guy, and that's how gracious I am. That's how he seems to me. If I were in Dad's shoes, I'd make my brother work for it. I've been working for it all my life. My brother should start out on the bottom of the totem pole like I did and prove he's worthy to be reinstated back into the family. That's what I'd do. How's he going to learn from what he did if there are no consequences to his actions? And the more I talk about it and think about it, what it really boils down to is justice. Where is the justice in restoring my brother not just to where he was before he ran off, but to a better position than before he ran off? It's not justice, and that's what's wrong with the world today. People who mess up never seem to get what they deserve. My brother certainly doesn't deserve what my father did for him, and I don't think I'll ever get over that. But you know what? I'm just glad I'm not like my brother. And that reminds me of a quick story. Just the other day, I went to the temple to pray like I should, and to do my duty, and to give my tithe, and I counted it up to the penny, mind you. I'm sure my brother didn't give his tithe when he ran off. And when I was in the temple, I couldn't believe it. A tax collector was sitting right there in the temple praying. Can you believe it? He had no right to be there. What with him being a tax collector, so you know what I did? I sat down right next to him. And this is what I prayed. I prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give tenths of what all I get. I gotta tell you how good that felt. And I pray the same thing about my brother. I'm glad I'm not like him either. Taken enough of your time this morning, so I'll just close with this. Who would you rather be like? My brother, who lived a terrible, sinful life and wasted everything he ever had? Or would you rather be like me, the person who knew that he was working towards a goal and always did what he should? Would you rather rely on the graciousness of your father like my brother does? Or would you rather take pride in working towards your inheritance? I think the choice is an easy one, and I've made my choice. Now it's time for you to make yours. Switching back to me now, I thought that was actually rather fun to write. Not speaking as the older son now, I hope this gives a little bit of a sense of how the Pharisees felt in regards to their salvation, which really was the point Jesus was driving home. You simply cannot earn your salvation, and when the older son, what he called the inheritance, the Pharisees were trying their best to earn that. The disdain that the older son felt towards the humble was fueled by his own self-righteousness, his own sense of self-worth, when the Bible tells us that our best works are nothing more than filthy rags. Yet the older son was putting his rags on display for everyone to see. And I think it's easy for us to see exactly what they are, just filthy rags. Let us not model this attitude. Let us all be humble and accepting of the free gift that God offers to everyone, which is salvation through His Son, Jesus Christ. When you humbly accept that gift, then it shows that you appreciate the giver of that gift so much more. And lastly, in my telling of this story from the older son's perspective, he actually stumbles upon a truth that I want to draw attention to, and that is that what the father did for the younger son was not justice. He was true there. What he did for him was graciousness. These are two completely different concepts. Justice is giving someone what they deserve, and graciousness is giving someone what they do not deserve. And we thank God that He is a gracious God and offers to us everlasting life. The intentional irony in this story is that the older son asked for justice, and the old saying is true: be careful what you wish for, because you just may get it. Let's bow our heads and pray.